In these last few days before the new year, we're going to spend a lot. We're going to spend a lot more time looking back on those on things what we talked about last year, and then what we talk about for this year. Looking, looking forward to new topics in the coming year. Talk all about that later. Now, you know by the title, let's talk about this. This is a big issue because right about now, this is what about every single parent in America. If you're a parent, there's something you must know and need to know on a daily basis, which is right now. Something you need to watch right now. We're talking about teen drinking and underage drinking. A really big issue. A really big issue. It's a really big issue that to this day we see teens not knowing the dangers of it. And alcohol is just the drug of choice among youth. So in essence, many teenagers can just like go to the fridge, get a bottle of what, and then boom, there you go. There's death waiting at your eyes. There's a bunch of research that there's like a bunch of research that people need to do before they learn a lot more about teen drinking. That's why we as parents need to be understanding this coming from me. Teen underage drinking is now it's a problem. It's illegal. Their research shows that many obsolescents start to drink at a very young age. 2050, the average age of first use of alcohol is 14, compared to 17 and a half in 1965. And now that the age to drink is 21. Plus, drug driving is a big issue. We'll talk about that. We'll get to that later. Right now, let's get to why we're talking about this. The reason why is because it's a big issue for all parents to talk their teens about when they're teen years. The schools need to have set up programs. Like if your school does not have a program, convince the school board to make a program convincing alcohol. Here's a graph that I obtained. It goes all the way to 2005. I don't know if you can see it. But if you see here from like 8th grade, it goes to 2005. From 1991 to 2005. And then it goes from 91 to 2005. It goes like all the way, 75, 76, all the way to 2005. This is what is expected, and this is what needs to be happening in America right now. But this is all about. This is all about what we're talking about. They drink because it's good to drink alcohol, but it's not good to drink alcohol. Alcohol is not good for you. Alcohol is for people who can afford to lose a few brain cells. Period. There are things inside you that you need to kill, but that's not an excuse. There are a bunch of health risks of underage drinking. There's brain effects. There's brain and liver effects, and there's also growth effects. And there's a bunch of treatment that all parents need to know about. ATI, adolescent treatment interventions. This is really a big issue for every parent to talk about, to talk to their teens about. In a little bit more, we're going to discuss everything about drinking and driving. Just let's face it, in a few days, we're going to go, 2017 is gone, and we're going to go into the new year. That's why we have to be prepared. There's more than half American youth ages 12 to 20 have tried alcohol. Like, seriously. Today, the average age of an American girl has her first drink is 13 for a boy, and it's 11 in the U.S. and many other countries. There are 4 things that if you start using alcohol at 21, you're more likely to be involved in violent behaviors, to have suicide, engage unprotected sex and multiple sex partners, and then develop alcohol in later life. And this is what I'm going to get to right now. Kids are experimenting with alcohol at earlier ages than ever before. A national survey found that slightly more than half of young adults in the U.S. between the ages of 12 and 20 have consumed alcohol at least once. Some researchers speculate that teens are more vulnerable to responsible impulse control and executive decision making. In other words, teenagers' capacity for pleasure reaches adult proportions well before their capacity for sound and decision making does. And this is where this really gets interesting, so I want you to listen. In past generations, boys were up to more likely than girls to experiment with alcohol in their teens, but girls are catching up. In 2009, 58% of all males ages 12 and older were current drinkers, higher than the rate of females. That's 47%. Youngest group ages 12 to 17. But in the youngest group, ages 12 to 17, the percentage of current drinkers was nearly the same. 50% of boys, 14% girls. So that's 29% total for what I just talked about. Now, I'm not going to read you this whole thing of what I obtained, but it is really a big issue for every parent in America to know. If you don't stop this, your son or daughter may be lying in a hospital bed dead, and you're going to say to yourself, it's my fault that I taught my son about how it just happened. I made my son drink alcohol. We're going to learn more after this. Today, we're talking about underage drinking and drinking and driving. Why underage drinking is a problem and illegal. Why I brought this up is because there was an episode of Super Manny, Mike Ruggles, a big issue that made me start doing my homework was about underage drinking. There's alcohol poisoning. There's a bunch of stuff needed to be happening. And parents need to know about this before stuff like this happens. I've got script after script of, like, I've got everything. I I can tell you what alcohol means if you guys don't even know. But I don't want children getting the wrong ideas. I don't want children watching stuff like this. So parents, if you have small children, you need to tell them to leave the room right now. I'm not encouraging children to start drinking. I will not encourage teens. I will not encourage anybody. Not even abusive husbands. Period. So again, if you have small children, they need to leave the room right now. Not a show for them to watch. Not age appropriate. And as a parent, you need to watch this. This could be a life or death situation for your teen son or your teen daughter. So let's continue. We last left off. I was reading some of these paragraphs about the early age of alcohol use. So going back to all of this, I told you I was going to read it, but then I had to change my mind here. So I'm going to start over from paragraph 3. While many young people will independently cut down their drinking and start drinking altogether as they reach their mid-20s and assume their responsibilities as being employees, spouse, and parent, the risk of early age drinking will remain. People who have the first drink at the age of 14 are younger than 6 times more likely to develop alcohol problems than those who don't try alcohol until the legal drinking age. That is 21. And again, if you're under age 21, it's illegal. This is a wake-up call for everybody. My dad's over the age of 21. He drinks beer. My sister drinks alcohol. She's over the age of 21. What are the factors? You might be asking, what are the factors or risks of a drinking problem? Well, that's a good question. Let me read you this. As well as the age which they start consuming alcohol, a number of other factors influence a teen or young adult's drinking behavior and whether it will become a problem. These include race and ethnicity, genetics, the presence of mental health disorders like depression, bipolar, anxiety, and schizophrenia, personality traits, influences of family and peers, and gender. Now, we're going to get to this part right here. They're going to drive in a short way. You need to come up with a contract for your son or your daughter saying that I will be if that you have a problem, you can call that you will call your parent and that the team will call you and that you will pick them up. I could come up with a contract by email, but this is really like a big issue. You would be wasting that much ink right here. I'm going to tell you something. I do my homework before I do this show. And homework like this seems to get my attention. To teach teens about the dangers of drinking and driving. I mean, if you were to see me doing a survey, I would begin by asking you these questions. But enough of that. Let's get to the topic we're discussing about drinking and driving, the dangers. Drinking while young. So let me read you these paragraphs right here. The years between 18 and 25 are a time of considerable change when as teenagers spread their wings and leave home, many for the first time. While these may be existing years, widespread alcohol use means they may be risky years as well. The highest prevalence problem drinking occurs among young adults aged 18 to 25, nearly 42% of whom are binge drinking at least once a month. Many of us typically think of how college as a setting where older teens and younger 20s some of the strength of success. However, several studies show that heavy drinking is widespread among young adults, regardless of whether they attend college. College students tend to drink less than often than non-students. When they, but when they do imbibe as parties, for example, they tend to drink more. The prevalent use of alcohol among teens and young adults is alarming in a number of reasons. These, I'll tell you about these three reasons. Alcohol is a major factor in automobile crashes. One-third of drivers ages 21 and 24 who died in a car crash in 2009 had blood alcohol level that was over the legal limit. Drinking may have lasting health effects. Researchers believe that heavy drinking at this age is when the brain is still developing may cause lasting impairments in brain functions such as memory, coordination, and motor skills, at least among suspectable individuals. It can also lead to sexual results in rape. 97,000 students between the ages of 18 and 24 are victims of alcohol-related sexual assault or date rape. And this is for all for your teen daughter. All teens need to watch this show and they need to say to themselves, "Wait a minute, I shouldn't be drinking until I'm 21." It's a good thing. It's always a good thing. That's why I find being an emotional compass and I point you into the right direction. Teenage girls experiment with alcohol for many the same reasons the boys do, but they face some challenges that boys don't. Here's why. Among teenage heavy drinkers, those having 5 or more drinks in a row at least 5 times in 1 month, those are more likely to say that they drink to escape problems or to cope with frustration or anger. They're more likely to drink because of family problems than because of peer pressure. That's number 2. Number 3, it can delay puberty in girls while abusing alcohol can cause endocrine disorders during puberty. Teenage girls who drink more likely to have unprotected sex than girls who don't drink, putting themselves in an increased risk of pregnancy and sexually transmitted disease, STDs for short. Now let's get to the hard matter. Binge drinking and alcohol poisoning. Here's an excerpt. Binge drinking consuming 5 or more drinks at the same for males, 4 or more for females can cause teens to pass out, black out, lose memory of events that occurred while they are intoxicated, feel sick, miss school, or behave in ways that would otherwise be uncharacteristic for them. They may drive while drunk to get into arguments. Some binge drinkers heavily weekend abstain, drink only moderation during the week. Others binge less often during the holidays, special occasions, or they have stress. Although many young adults drink responsibly or abstaining altogether, binge drinking is still a common problem. While teens at as young as the age of 13 admit to this practice, it becomes more popular in adolescents and peaks in the college years. College students between the ages of 18 and 22 are more likely to report binge drinking than non-students the same age. Recent news reports that deaths of alcohol poisoning on college campuses have spotlighted dangers of binge drinking. Binge drinkers are 8 times more likely than other college students to miss classes, fall behind in schoolwork, be injured, or damage property. Binge drinkers also face grim consequences of alcohol poisoning and severe, potentially fatal reaction to alcohol overdose. So, what I'm saying to you is, for you guys in school, if you decide to drink and not go to school, you're missing. If you guys still are going to school and you guys miss out on what's happening in school, you're missing out on everything because you're out drinking. Like, I'm telling you this. I told this every episode. I told this on the school side when you give me a break. School nights are between Sunday through Thursday. Friday is not a school night. Sunday, Thursday is. And when it's that time for school night, all parents need to have a curfew for their kids. And if you live on your parents' roof, you have to follow their rules. Period. We're going to get to that part about. So how do you talk to your how do you talk to your teen son or daughter about responsible drinking? I want to hear more about that when we come back later. Also, we're going to talk about how to recognize and treat alcohol poisoning. We're going to talk about all of this and more when we come back. Okay, welcome back. Now, as you know, if you've been watching this whole time, we've been talking about alcohol. We've been talking about teenage drinking, alcohol poisoning, and drinking and driving. We're not talking about that yet because there's still a lot of things to be discussed about. One of the main topics that most parents are concerned is all about alcohol poisoning. And because alcohol's central nervous system is present, drinking too much is too fast, slows some bodily functions such as the heart rate, the blood pressure, and breathing to a dangerous level, causing the victim to lose consciousness. Here are the possible signs that you should look out for: unconsciousness or semi-conscious state, slow reception, 8 or fewer breaths per minute, or lasts between breaths of more than 8 seconds, cold, clammy, pale, or bluish skin, a strong odor of alcohol in the breath and forming from the skin. So the only drinkers out there, if you're doing this, this right here is what you need to watch out for. What do you do if someone develops alcohol poisoning? Here are 4 tips. Never leave someone who already have alcohol poisoning alone to sleep it off. You need to call 911 immediately. Gently turn the person to his or her left side of using a pillow placed on the small back to keep him or her in that position. It will help prevent choking should an individual vomit. Stay with the person until medical help arrives. If that person beside you is unconscious, don't leave. Go get something to eat and then wait until the paramedics show. That can't be happening. You have someone who's unconscious from like alcohol and stuff, and then all of this is happening because you decide to take your friend out to go drink. He's unconscious. You're sitting there continuing partying, and then you're not. Someone will have to watch that dead person. That can't be allowed. Now let's move on to this question: how to talk to teens about responsible drinking. Now this is really a big issue for every parent to know. So parents, if you haven't even got this, you need to write this down. And you need to have your teens with you. Talk to your teens after you watch this show. As a parent, grandparent, teacher, or friend, you have the major impact of the choices that children in your life make, especially during preteen and early teen years. One study reported that adolescents from families with alcohol problems were less likely to use alcohol themselves if they felt a sense of control over their environments, had good coping skills, and highly organized families. Other researchers have found that learning family rituals such as keeping established daily routines and celebrating holidays can also make a difference in steering kids toward alcohol. Talking to young people openly and honestly about drinking is also really important. Delaying the age in which young people should take their first drink lowers the risk of becoming problem drinkers. That's the reason you have to talk to teenagers about it at school. But it's not the only one. These are six. These are the 6 reasons why. It's because alcohol has harmful effects on developing brain and bodies. Drinking interferes with good judgment, leading young people to risky behavior and making them vulnerable to sexual contact. Teenagers who use alcohol and tobacco are greater risk using other drugs. Teenagers who drink are more likely to develop behavioral problems, including stealing, fighting, skipping school. Underage drinking is illegal. Damn right it's illegal. Tip 2, start the conversation early. The age limit I would recommend is if they go to their tween years, like 12, 13. I would recommend you talk to your kids about that before when they're in the 6th grade, before they go to like junior high or middle school or something. While most people recognize the importance of discussing alcohol with kids, they aren't always sure to initiate discussion. Adolescents are often nervous and confused as they face their first opportunity to try alcohol and are often interested to hear your thoughts on the subject. Set the stage early and letting your teenager know that he or she can talk to you about anything without judgment or lecture. Open up and listen. You can ask like open questions and listen to the answers without interrupting. Talk openly about your family history. Set clear expectations and communicate your values. Control your emotions. And ask about your teenager's friends. So in other words, all this that we talked about, it's a wake-up call for all. This is really a wake-up call for everybody to know about the dangers of underage drinking and teen drinking. That's why I devoted most of this video, most of the segment, show to talk about this kind of issue, because what we're seeing right now is teens who start to drink and then not realize the situation here. So parents, if you want to talk to your kids about alcohol, it's never too late before they start to go to middle school. Or have to wait till their teacher tells them about it. This is really a big issue for everybody. All right, next we're going to talk about, okay, start over. Next, we're going to talk about drinking and driving, the dangers of drinking and driving, and what can happen to you if you're in a drinking and driving accident. What you should not do when you're in a drinking and driving situation. We're going to talk about all that when we come back. What do you do when you want to start New Year's resolution? Going out to a party, right? How do you feel when you were trying to go to your car and ask someone for a ride? You all buzzed up, going to your car, all of a sudden you crash into a pole or something? That's at least one of the things of drinking and driving. That can mean you're buzzed up, you're driving and you crash, pass out in the car. Police are everywhere looking on this, and this is really a big issue to talk about this. This is why, before everybody, I wanted to talk about why this is a big issue. We talked about underage drinking, now we're focusing on drinking and driving. The reason that is because you don't know whether your son or daughter, you don't know where your daughter may be, or your son may be. That's why you got to set curfew for them. That may be good, but that may be good for your teen, but they're not going to understand that you set a curfew. They're going to be like, why would you do that to me? I'm like, I don't understand. Your parents know that, but they care about your safety. My mom cares about my safety too, no matter what. If you go out late at night, you let your parents know. If you're going to be home late, you let your parents know. I let my mom know if I'm going to be home late, I let her know. That way she'll be like, okay. If you're going to be home late, you text your parents saying, I'm going to be home late because of a home basketball game, I'm going to hang out with my friends, I'm going to go play my guitar, this and that, I'll be home like at 8:30, 9 o'clock, this and that. The safety issues about this, people who go out at night, that's not an issue. Dark clothing, people who go out in dark clothing, they can't even see. That's a no-no. You need to have light clothing, light shirts. A light shirt. light shorts so that people can see. Like, just because you're like out in the dark, you need to have like light clothing on. It's a big safety issue for everybody. Every parent needs to understand that we have to care about our kids' safety. We have to teach our kids all about safety during about all of this. Like, you've always taught your kids, little kids, not to stay away from fire because they could burn themselves, not to play with fire. It's a big issue. We always taught our kids about crossing the street. Crossing the street, that's a big issue. We've always talked to our kids about, children about not getting in a car with strangers or not to talk to strangers. But when you're teaching your kids about alcohol, you need to have a perfect example of safe environment and most importantly, some guidance and emotional control. We're going to wrap things up here in just a moment. Because of our situation with alcohol and underage drinking, we're going to be able to bring you a topic about tobacco on that, with that for you coming up on January 8th. On January 8th, January 8th next year. But however, here's what you can see. We'll have that for you in 2 weeks. But however, here is one of the issues here's one of the topics that we're going to talk about next week. We're going to talk about husbands and boyfriends controlling their wives and girlfriends. So is your life out of control because your husband or boyfriend is tracking you? So this is a question for all of you. Is your life a living hell because your husband or boyfriend controls your every move? I want to hear from you. You can email me in the description below at jcarney67@gmail.com. That's jcarney67@gmail.com. Tell me your story. And then and if you're lucky enough, and if you're the lucky ones, you may appear on our show. You may appear via phone or via social media. So again, that's jcarney67@gmail.com. It'll also be in the description and in the annotation, on the annotation side. That's next week. That's going to be like the next, so 2 weeks we're going to talk about tobacco, and then coming up like next week, we're going to focus on abusive relationships and husbands or boyfriends who control their wives or girlfriends' every move. That's all coming up in the next 2. That's all coming up. So until then, you have a happy new year, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks. See you in 2 weeks. Until next time, America, you all have a happy new year.